upon a time, there lived a boy named Srideep, who, at a very young age of 15, was in the middle of a dilemma, choosing between a high position in school that would give him great exposure and, well, board exams. As the deadline for the decision arrived, Srideep seemed to be descending into the decision paradox. He paced back and forth in his room, racked his brains, had sleepless nights. But the nightmare continued. Until one fine morning, while he was still in his bed, his cat jumped and demanded belly rubs. And that is when a thought dawned upon him, and he said to himself, "Oh, Schrodinger's cat." So there's this experiment, right, that involves an imaginary cat being trapped in a box with radioactive substances. The cat later exists in a stage where it is both dead and alive at the same time, until the box is opened. Now, the decision to open the box may be a difficult one, because one of the outcomes involves the cat being dead. But there exists another outcome, where the cat is still alive. We would never know until we open the box. So that's it, said Srideep to himself. Let's open the box. It all boils down to making the decision to open the box, right? The consequences of our choices either make us or break us. But to determine it all, a choice has to be made without descending into the madness of the decision paradox. Because let's face it, with or without this madness, there will still be a consequence. But more times than often, consequences become fear. Fear becomes uncertainty, and uncertainty becomes hesitation, giving birth to the paradox of choice. Namaste everyone, my name is Srideep Sunil Kumar, and I hope I haven't given you existential crisis yet. So, when presented with multiple options, how many of you can make an easy choice? Easier said than done, right? Why? Because of the paradox of choice. Again, when presented with multiple options, the choices become harder. It confuses us so much that sometimes we end up not choosing anything at all, existing in a similar state to the Schrodinger's cat. We want to make a choice, but there are too many factors to consider, too many outcomes that we fear or don't want to know. Because what if the box is opened and the cat is dead? Anyways, coming back to the story, the struggle of the main character, which is me, doesn't end here. He was always in some dilemma or the other, where he couldn't choose when he was presented with multiple options. There are so many mundane choices we have to make on a daily basis, right? Something as simple as to go play or study, eat vanilla or chocolate ice cream, drink Pepsi or Coca-Cola, or to tell mom the food was salty or not. So many decisions to make in a day and so many possible consequences for each. Now imagine what would happen to my mind when I have to decide my future, choosing a college out of the million options available today. But here's the thing, right? This is where the idea of opening the box comes in. The paradox of choice exists in a mind that fears a certain consequence stemming from a choice made. We need to understand that this paradox does not exist on its own. We give birth to it in our minds by creating multiple choices in the fear of making the wrong decision. This state of mind is well explained by the French philosopher Buridan, who describes a very hungry and thirsty donkey who was equally away from a lake and a pile of hay. He lacked a reason to choose one over the other and ended up dying both of hunger and thirst. Here, a dilemma arises in the mind of the donkey because of the fear of a consequence, which in this case is death, which ultimately led him to his death. Now, if we relate this story with our lives, we will understand that all of us behave like the said donkey at some point in our lives. Why? Because we have been always taught to make the right decision. Our choices make us who we are. One wrong choice can destroy you. Sounds familiar? These are the things we have been told growing up. Now imagine how can a person ever make a simple choice when the burden of it being the right choice is so heavy? Up to a certain age, our decisions were taken by others, like our teachers, parents, etc., because they know what is good for us. I agree that all of this comes from a place of genuine love and concern, and they always have our best interests at heart. But as we grow, that mentality of making the right choices, better choices, safe choices takes a stronger root in our minds. I strongly believe that there is nothing called a right decision. A decision is a choice you make. Whether it's right or wrong, is decided by the effort and diligence you put towards that choice, which would then determine the outcome. So, asking ourselves a series of questions would only lead to tremendous stress and confusion. The question one ought to ask is, how would there ever be a consequence if a decision weren't made? Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both. I had chosen the road less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Even our beloved poet, Robert Frost, establishes the importance of choices. It is imperative to make choices in order to walk different paths of life. But what happens when we have too many choices? I urge everyone here to really give this a thought. Why is it that we are so afraid of making the wrong choice? Or are phrases like failure is the first step to success just meaningless words? My father has this habit of repeating one phrase, Adhigam Mayal Amrudam Visha, which translates to anything in excess is poison. Food in excess is poison, water in excess is poison, and choices in excess are no exception. I decided to ask myself some real questions to understand as to what exactly prompts us to create so many choices. And as much as I really wanted to make a scientific discovery that would blow your minds today, it all came down to a very simple conclusion: overthinking. One day, my parents took me to an ice cream shop, and the amount of variety in that shop was insane. It took me what felt like eternity to my parents before I chose the blueberry flavor. And even though it was quite tasty, I still kept feeling the sense of knot in my stomach that I had made the wrong choice, because there were just so many flavors and I wanted to get the best one. Now, this may seem like an insignificant detail, but look at the bigger picture. Something as simple as choosing an ice cream flavor descended me into the decision paradox. I ended up overthinking every choice. People tend to overthink their choices because at some point, the fear of making the wrong decision often becomes an instinctive response every time we are presented with many choices. Overthinking, despite its seemingly analytical nature, often proves counterproductive while making choices. The human mind has a tendency to delve into intricate details, potential scenarios, and hypothetical outcomes, which can create a web of thoughts that can be overwhelming. Instead of providing clarity, overthinking tends to fuel anxiety and indecision. To everyone sitting in this room today, I have one small request. Can we unlearn everything we have learned growing up about choices? The necessity to make the right choice is the only thing wrong here. Imagine if your child's instinctive response towards making a choice is fear. How would we raise children who have their own voices? Having to make choices should fill one with excitement and gratefulness, because not everyone in this world gets that privilege. We have a choice to make right now: to raise children who live in a constant state of decision paradox, or to raise children who are decisive. One should choose for oneself. I choose the latter. Thank you.